I'm John Hall. I'm chairman of the local community group called PACE. That's Practical Actions for Climate and the Environment. The chief executive of Essex Wildlife Trust for many years. I retired a few years ago. Well, during my whole career, actually, I've been involved in the environment. When I retired, then I wanted to do things, particularly for obviously the environment, but also because climate change was a increasing issue, really. So the first thing we did after I retired was we built our own eco house here in Lawford, which is where I live, and then got involved with the local PACE Manningtree group, which started in the pub, actually, in the Red Lion in Manningtree, where like-minded people got together and we started discussing, well, what is it that we can practically do, positive things that we can practically do, which would help tackle climate change, help the planet and the local environment. PACE is a local community group, so we're all volunteers. We've got about 18 people in the core group, and then we've got a much wider group of about 300 local people. And we're all people who are committed to doing practical work, hunting out, exploring practical projects, which we believe will help the local environment and help tackle climate change in one way or another. So we've got about 20 projects which are running at the moment. Those range from the Manningtree Earth Festival, which is quite a big project that we're involved in. We're also looking, for example, at the water quality of the River Stour, looking to see if there's any pollution in the local environment there. We've just recently supported an e-cargo bike. I don't know if you know what those are, but it would enable, it's like a local courier service, if you like, which is run by bicycle, by an electric bicycle, rather than by petrol-fueled vans. We've got various biodiversity type projects that we're running. For example, we've got a Wild Gardens Open Day coming in July, where lots of local people are opening their gardens. These are all gardens where people are doing things for wildlife alongside having it as a nice garden. So there are lawns and there are patios and so on, but they're doing lots of things in their gardens to support local biodiversity. We've got tree planting projects and so on. As I say, about 20 different projects that are running at the moment. PACE is spearheading various projects locally, and they do involve the town council and the local parish councils. We also have regular meetings with Tendring District Council, have several different projects going with them. So just as we do in PACE is explore and research and hunt out particular projects that we think are important and can do something to reduce carbon emissions, for example, or improve local biodiversity, then so we do the same with the other organizations that are involved locally. A lot of local businesses, for example, we're involved in trying to encourage them. There's been a plastic-free initiative in Manningtree, for example, and lots of local businesses have signed up to that. And Manningtree is one of the, well, it's the second town in Essex, I believe, Fearing, I think, being the first, that have got what's called plastic-free status. And that's all about reducing single-use plastic in the local area. So a whole range of projects with a whole range of different organisations, really. We're like a catalyst, really. I suppose the PACE Manningtree is like a catalyst, working with other groups and other organisations to achieve things. We can't achieve them all on our own. we want to work with lots of others, so together we can make a big difference. Tree Earth Festival was, I suppose, a spin-off from the Plastic Free Initiative. And one of the organisations, one of the businesses involved in that was Wynel in Manningtree, which sells very good wine, but also sells vinyl records, hence the name. And Steve Tatham, who was also involved in the Manningtree District Business Chamber, so lots of links with other businesses. And he got fired up about this and said, well, we ought to do more. And therefore we met, and a whole group of us met and decided that we would run an Earth Festival where we could showcase a lot of the initiatives that are going on in the local area, so that more people could see what these are. They can get a range of examples of practical things that people are doing locally, practical things that make a difference. Changes to people's everyday lives, maybe in their food, maybe in how they get their energy, biodiversity type projects, water saving initiatives, and so on and so forth. All these different initiatives which will reduce carbon emissions and tackle the biodiversity collapse. I mean, that's what's happening, isn't it? As well as climate change going on, we've got a biodiversity crisis going on. So there's those two main threads that we're really working on. But we want to do things that local people can get involved in. Local people can play their part. Our experience is that a lot of people are aware of climate change and the threats that it poses now. They want to do something. They're not sure what it is best to do. Like everybody, they've got limitations in their own lives in terms of the money they've got, the time they've got, the energy they've got, family issues, work issues, and so on. So people are there ready to do things, but they need some encouragement in finding the things that's appropriate for them. So what we're trying to do is to get initiatives going, and people can choose which of those they can fit into their own lifestyle, and encouraging them to get on and make those changes. Yeah, the Manningtree Earth Festival is, there are what we call 8 zones, different zones of activity in the town. It's all in the town centre. So we've got part of the main street in Manningtree closed, so it'll be pedestrianised on the day. So people can stroll between these different zones. So down by the beach, for example, we've got the water zone, where we'll be looking at some of the water quality issues in the estuary, but also some of the recreational aspects there. And there will be short nature walks going off there along the coast. We've got a food zone, which is centred around the whole food store in Manningtree. Other stalls there that are providing food, but they're focusing on local food and seasonal food. So food essentially that's coming within about 30 miles of Manningtree to reduce all the food miles that are otherwise involved. We've got a transport zone where there's electric bikes, for example. There are a walking group there who are explaining what local walks and routes are available. We'll have some electric cars there, which are local owners who can explain their experience of using those electric vehicles. We've got a clothes zone. Each of these zones is related to what's called a carbon footprint schedule, which is being produced by the University of Essex. And that highlights where you can make significant changes in your everyday life, which will reduce your carbon emissions. So the clothes zone is talking about your clothing and what sort of fabrics are most environmentally sensitive, and also how you can repair. And there'll be seamstresses there, for example, who will repair your clothes for you, sometimes with a visible repair, if that's what you'd prefer. So that's the clothing zone. That's in the Red Lion. And then up at the church hall at the top of South Street in Manningtree, there's what we call the energy zone, because where you get your electricity or your gas, any of your fuels really, is critical to the amount of carbon emissions you have. So insulating your home, for example, choosing your energy provider, those are two important issues. So there'll be stalls there which will explain that. And we've also got a recycling zone there. Obviously, we want to reduce the amount of rubbish that we produce. We want to reuse things as much as possible. But at the end of the day, we want to recycle things. And so there's a recycling game in there with a lot of cleaned rubbish, especially for this, where you'll set off, you have a certain amount of time and see how many items you can get into the correct recycling bins, which are around that pile of rubbish. We'll have a leaderboard there, so we can see, who's the best at doing that recycling game. In fact, there's quite a lot of other family-based activities in the festival. There's a biodiversity zone, for example, where there are various nature trail or nature challenge type games there, as well as a moth trap, for example, so you can see some of the big moths that will come in at night. We'll have had a moth trap on at night, so you can see that, and a whole range of conservation stalls there, which will be explaining, what they're doing, what each organization's doing to try and support the local environment. So a whole range of things there. There are about 40 different stalls there. We've got 18 different speakers who are speaking on different subjects, short, punchy talks, but a call for action, if you see what I mean, from these different speakers who are dealing with different aspects of climate change and biodiversity loss. And also some great music. There's 5 local bands are going to be playing during the course of the day. So some great local music. We need good music, I think, don't we, in a time when we're challenged by something like climate change, because it's quite a tough call, really, some of this. And to help us with that, we've also got some yoga, for example, Reiki, things like that, to help us relax and as we try and tackle these climate change issues.